Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is NTD Business, and I'm Paul Graney. Biden's trade rep nominee makes it past a Senate Finance Committee. We ask how she might approach the China challenge. Will small business owners force their employees to get vaccinated? We have some new data and analysis. Would you like to invest in Bitcoin without actually holding the digital currency? Might soon be an option if the SEC gives the green light. That and more coming up on NTD Business. One big question for small business is whether to force employees to get COVID-19 tests or vaccines before returning to work. Well, a new survey says most small businesses aren't going to make their employees get either. NTD's Tom Ozimek reports.
Most of America's small businesses are not forcing their employees to get tested for COVID-19 or get the vaccine. The findings come from a government survey of around 25,000 small businesses. It found that 70% of businesses nationwide did not require a negative COVID-19 test before letting their employees resume in-person work. 10% of businesses said they did, while nearly 20% said the question didn't apply to them because they didn't have employees physically coming into work between February 15th and 21st, the week covered by the survey. On COVID vaccines, 78.4% of small businesses nationwide said they did not require their employees to get it, while just 2.2% said they did. But there were differences across sectors. Healthcare was by far the biggest requiring a vaccine, with 4.9% checking that box. That's more than twice the national average. Healthcare also led the field in testing requirements at 15.5%, followed by construction at 11.7%. The survey comes as the vaccination drive is picking up speed, and states eager to reopen for business are easing COVID restrictions. Johnson & Johnson's newly authorized vaccine started shipping over the weekend, while Massachusetts joined states like Iowa and Missouri to make it easier to grab a dinner and a show. Tom Ozimek, NTD News.
And small venues in New York will be allowed to reopen again. Limited capacity at least. Here's Governor Cuomo's senior advisor making the announcement today.
For event spaces that are less than 10,000, those can begin reopening at 33% capacity with up to 100 people indoors and again 200 people outdoors.
The owner of comedy club Stand Up New York was suing the governor for keeping his business shuttered. But just hours ago, when the club owner got the good news that he can reopen again, he couldn't wait to celebrate with his supporters. Just by chance, NTD News was there to capture the moment.
We did it, Joe.
We did it. We did it, Johnny. Terrific.
We did it. We've been fighting for this.
It's been a long time.
He says he's never worked so hard in his life fighting to keep his club open, and he looks forward to bringing laughter to New York again. Good luck. President Biden says he's okay with reducing the number of people eligible for the next round of stimulus payments. If you make over $80,000 a year, you're out. Tough luck. If you make under $75,000, you'll get the full $1,400 payment, and for those in between, you'll just get a smaller check. The New York Post says Biden signed off on it to appease moderate Senate Democrats. The two Democrat aides apparently told Business Insider the $400 unemployment benefit will stay the same at least until the end of August. The Senate Finance Panel has confirmed Biden's pick for trade rep. If confirmed by the Senate, Catherine Tai could soon come face-to-face with trade reps from the Chinese Communist Party. A hallmark of the Trump administration was trying to rein in China's predatory trade practices. How successful they were, I'll leave it up to you. Not an easy job, but Trump did make the regime uncomfortable at least. So will Tai and Biden continue this hardline approach? Riley Walters was a senior policy analyst and economist at the Heritage Foundation's Asian Study Center. Now he's at the Hudson Institute. I asked him how the CCP will be feeling after listening to Tai's hearings.
They're probably a little bit relieved. I think one of the things synonymous with the Trump administration's trade policies was chaos. the unknown, so not really knowing what's coming next out of their trade czar. And so I think what Ms. Tai brought was a little bit more of a clear idea, even though at this point it's still not really clear what the Biden administration has in store for trade. But I think from just a general point of view, the Biden administration seems a little bit more focused on certain issues. A lot of the trade experts around Washington have been saying things like, let's make trade boring again. And so that's certainly something we can maybe see in this administration. And so I think that's something that Beijing would actually like. I think there's actually a lot of Americans who would like that as well, though. Same thing with the Europeans and other trade partners of the U.S.
And you feel they would like it? Would it be beneficial considering all of China's different malpractice in trade and kind of skirting the rules? You think that it's beneficial?
Yeah, there's no way getting around the fact that China is a bipartisan issue in Washington these days. So it doesn't matter who's coming into this position, they're going to be tough on China. And I think Ms. Tai is going to be absolutely tough on China, just as well as the whole Biden administration. The difference is that, it won't be as chaotic. We probably won't see, tariffs being levied on hundreds of billions of traded goods anymore. Those are probably going to stick around for a while, which is troubling, I think, from an economic point of view. But from a political point of view, it's a little bit more easy to anticipate. There's nothing that's just going to completely blindside everyone.
Do you feel, from listening to Ms. Tai, is there anything novel in the approach, or is it more of the same, say, pre-Trump era?
It could be a combination of both. Again, it's, she's sort of riding the boat of the tide. Washington, again, it's very, critical of China these days. She herself noted that, past USTRs have had trouble reining in China's bad practices. And so it's something that she's going to focus on. The problem that we have right now, I guess, regarding Mrs. Tai is this was simply a nomination hearing. So we don't really know a lot of the actions that she can and will take. A lot of her response to Congress, either at the hearing or after the hearing, was, my team, if I'm confirmed, well, she is confirmed, my team will review these things. And so we don't know what will happen yet. That is something definitely for further debate. I think people are concerned that they might be too soft on China, but I don't anticipate they'll be making significant moves anytime soon.
From listening to her, do you think we'll see a continuation of this trend of reshoring or bringing back manufacturing to the United States?
I think there will be some of that, yes. But I don't think it'll be as stark as the previous administration. One of the things that she and Biden himself has said, they're more keen on working with allies. And so there might be less emphasis about just simply reshoring to the United States and more about working with allies and partners. And so it's maybe seen in the context of not just pro-U.S. but anti-China. So diversifying companies and supply chains outside of China for the sake of our security. So we don't get caught up in these political trade wars.
Yeah, saw those problems with the masks, of course, last year. Yeah, big problem. Riley, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Sure, of course.
So Tai advances, but Biden's pick to head the Office of Management and Budget is withdrawing herself. It's the administration's first defeat in filling a cabinet position. NTD's Kevin Hogan has the details.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Before dropping out of the nomination process, Neera Tanden had insulted the very lawmakers who were to decide her fate as Biden's pick to head the key White House office. She had called Senator Tom Cotton a fraud and said Senator McConnell was beholden to Russia.
Over the last few years, it's been part of my role to be an impassioned advocate. I know there have been some concerns about some of my past language in social media, and I regret that language and take responsibility for it.
Her nomination to head the OMB began to fall apart when Democrat Senator Joe Manchin said he'd oppose her. He says that's because she made partisan statements to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. Tanden made another statement that came back to haunt her. Years ago, Obama forced insurance companies to provide contraceptives at no cost to the patients. Tandon called religious opponents to this mandate extreme. But that statement of hers didn't go over well with Oklahoma Republican Senator James Lankford, who said, "That one seems to have crossed a different line for me." Tandon deleted over 1,000 posts since the November election. She wrote a letter to Biden saying she doesn't have a shot at confirmation and she doesn't want that to be a distraction for him. Biden says he respects her accomplishments and wants her to be a part of his administration somehow. This is the longest it has taken any president in modern history to fill their cabinet.
In market news, tech stocks led Wall Street lower again on Wednesday. The Dow fell 121 points or 0.39%, S&P 500 lost 51 points or 1.31%, but the Nasdaq dropped 361 points, that's 2.7%. Microsoft, Apple, Amazon all dropping way more than any other stocks in the S&P 500. While the vaccine rollout is expected to help the economy, data shows U.S. services industry activity unexpectedly slowed in February. The U.S. 10-year Treasury yield ticked up to 1.47, and Bitcoin reclaimed the $50,000 level as more firms eye exposure to the cryptocurrency space. They might just get what they're after. Investors could soon have a new way to invest in Bitcoin without actually holding the digital currency itself. The Chicago Board Options Exchange is asking the SEC for permission to list America's first ever Bitcoin ETF. Here's the details.
New York-based fund manager Van Eck wants to create an exchange-traded fund, or ETF, that will track the price of Bitcoin. So if you want exposure to Bitcoin, you can invest in this fund just like you would any stock. But is there really any advantage to it over just buying Bitcoin directly?
I don't see any advantages. The claimed advantage from the proponents are that it is more secure, right? But there are many other ways to handle security that do not require you going on a stock exchange.
Hodgson says Van Eck may be targeting a certain portion of the market. Some investors may not be allowed to invest directly in Bitcoin, but they'll be able to invest in the ETF. But before anyone can invest in it, it needs approval from the Security and Exchange Commission. The SEC is reviewing the application right now, but it's denied other Bitcoin ETF applications in the past, citing significant investor protection issues.
But in the long run, yes, there will be more, and they'll be more attractive as they go beyond just Bitcoin.
The SEC has 45 days to do its review, but can also extend the review period for 8 months.
Have you ever planned to buy something online and then just see ads for it everywhere you go? Well, that might soon change. Google says it won't build new tools to track users around the internet. That's after it phases out the use of cookies from its Chrome browser. And not all cookies are sweet. Some are small pieces of data that are used to keep track of your online activity. Spooky, right? Still, there are concerns about the tech giant's dominant power in online advertising, and the change won't affect Google's largest advertising moneymakers, that's search and YouTube. And Google still can track users through its own services like search or maps. They know where you go. And Parler is dropping one lawsuit against Amazon Web Services, but it's filing another. It was kicked off AWS in January after Amazon accused it of facilitating violent speech. That was around the time of the U.S. Capitol riot. The services were then restored in February. The latest lawsuit accuses Amazon Web Services of deceptive, defamatory, anti-competitive, and bad faith conduct. It alleges AWS violated Washington state laws on competition and consumer protection, but a spokesperson for Amazon says the new lawsuit is meritless. Samsung, looking to expand its chip manufacturing in the United States. The company is scoping out several locations in 3 different states for a rather pricey new plant. Francis McGuire reports.
Samsung is looking at 4 sites in the US for a new $17 billion chip plant. Documents filed with Texas state officials show 2 locations in Arizona, 1 in New York, and another in Austin, Texas are being looked at. The tech giant's new plant would produce devices for Samsung's chip contract manufacturing business, with 1,800 new jobs promised. The documents also showed how Samsung wants tax benefits from the potential sites, It's aiming for a combined tax reduction of almost $1.5 billion over 20 years from Travis County in Texas and the city of Austin. That's up from the near $806 million previously reported. The documents said both Arizona and New York were offering property tax abatement with, quote, significant grants to fund infrastructure improvement. Speaking to Reuters Wednesday, Samsung said it was considering a number of possibilities in terms of expansion.
And Microsoft says Chinese hackers are behind an attack on its email servers. They apparently took advantage of flaws in software security. The tech giant says a group called Hafnium is responsible for most of the cyber attacks. They say it's backed by the Chinese Communist Party. The hackers stole information by breaking into the company's mail and calendar servers, then installing a backdoor to access the system remotely. Microsoft says the group is highly sophisticated and mainly targets U.S. companies, including virus researchers, defense contractors, and higher education, among others. Microsoft has now released a security update to fix the problem on its Exchange server. Still to come. Prices of some Dr. Seuss books skyrocketing online. The publisher scrapped them yesterday, I'm sure you heard, over alleged racist imagery. Now they're selling for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. And China is accused of taking out India's power grid last year. Was it a warning that if they push too hard, their lights could go out? That and more coming up after the break.
If you're like me, and I think it's actually most of us, then you're getting really fed up with the nonsense going on inside the banking system. I mean, we've worked hard our entire lives to retire comfortably. We just recovered from the crash of 2008, and it seems like it's about to happen all over again. Look at the too-big-to-fail banks. They're only getting bigger as the Fed hands them trillions of dollars daily, while simple folks like you and me, we're only getting the short end of the stick. That's why I'm glad I found this book called The Bank Failure Survival Guide. Give us a call, and we'll send you a free copy with no obligations whatsoever. Just one American to another, telling you about some options that you might not have considered. Call 866-239-2619 today for your free copy of The Bank Failure Survival Guide. That's 866-239-2619.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
I'm sure you heard the Dr. Seuss publisher is stopping publication of some of its books. It says there's racist imagery inside, although many others are debating that. They say it's just another example of cancel culture. Either way, if you have any of the scrap titles, it could be your lucky day. Some of them are selling for hundreds, even tens of thousands of dollars online. The author's publishing company said yesterday it would stop selling 6 of the books. And those books that were listed at just a few dollars on eBay before the news shot up hundreds or even thousands of dollars afterwards. One 1964 original is even selling for $75,000. President Biden also removed Dr. Seuss's name from his proclamation for Read Across America Day. The annual day is meant to encourage children to read and also just happens to fall on Dr. Seuss's birthday. Ironic. So America cancels Seuss, China cancels pineapples. The fruit is at the center of the latest China-Taiwan dispute. After an abrupt import ban by China, Taiwan is calling on its allies to rally behind the hashtag Freedom Pineapple.
U.S. and Canadian diplomats praised the taste of pineapples grown in Taiwan Tuesday. It comes after Beijing banned pineapple imports from Taiwan last week, saying they could have harmful creatures on them. But Taiwan says the ban is a political move to put pressure on the island.
We want China to know that political pressure could not damage pineapples, neither could it reduce pineapple sweetness.
China accounts for 90% of Taiwan's pineapple exports. To address the surplus, Taiwan's foreign minister is calling on the world to rally behind the hashtag Freedom Pineapple. The de facto U.S. embassy in Taiwan asked, "Have you bought your pineapples yet?" "We have." And it posted pictures of pineapples with the hashtags Real Friends, Real Progress and Pineapple Solidarity. And the director of Canada's trade office posted a picture of his breakfast with the hashtag Freedom Pineapple. In recent months, China has repeatedly sent fighter jets into Taiwan airspace as a message. Beijing still considers Taiwan a part of China. The Chinese regime has a record of using agricultural imports to achieve its policy goals. For example, to retaliate against Australia's hard stance on Beijing, China put a 200% tariff on Australian wine last November. One Hudson Institute fellow tweets, "Nothing pairs nicely with an Australian wine like a Taiwanese pineapple cake. Tastes like freedom." And a Japanese YouTuber made a creative video promoting Taiwan's pineapples. According to Taiwan authorities, more than 41,000 tons of pineapples have been sold since China's ban last Friday. That's about the same amount exported to China last year, and exports to Japan have reached a record high. Reporting by Lin Lin, NTD News.
An independent cybersecurity firm says that blackouts in Mumbai, India last year could have been the result of a cyber attack from China. Maybe an escalation of a border dispute between the two countries. NTD's Patrick Hayden reports.
In October, power cuts hit the city of Mumbai. The New York Times reported the city of 20 million people was shut down during the pandemic and hospitals had to switch to emergency power supplies. An independent cybersecurity firm, Recorded Future, says evidence points to a coordinated attack by China on India's power grid. We spoke to a cyber warfare and EMP expert. He says there's compelling evidence that China carried out the attack.
This is a new way of warfare that's a way of posing an existential threat to other nations. And when you can demonstrate on a small scale, like taking out the electric grid in Mumbai and causing a temporary blackout, that is a shot across, a warning to India that their political and military leadership must be taken seriously.
He says we can learn from other examples where Russia switched off the power in Ukraine. Price says there's a good reason why Russia wasn't able to do it for a sustained period of time.
Because the Ukrainian grid control technology has a lot of what we call retro technology in it. Instead of relying on high-tech SCADAs and modern control systems, they have older technology in their grid that is manually controlled, electromechanical things that don't operate by the internet.
He says a bill has been passed to investigate retro backup systems in the US, and it's something other countries should also consider.
They're also invulnerable to less vulnerable to other kinds of threats like electromagnetic pulse, because of the more robust nature of these older technologies.
Price says generally speaking, though, governments are not in a big hurry to protect their grids using retro technology, but they should be. He says that it would be best for the world if the Indian government would explain the truth about the attack. However, he thinks they are more likely to stay silent for security reasons. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
The pandemic has reshaped the global travel landscape. Now low-cost airlines are naturally taking advantage. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Major airlines are shrinking to contain costs, but budget carriers Spirit Airlines, Allegiant Travel, and privately owned Frontier Airlines are starting to recruit pilots again and are expanding their networks. The three airlines' combined U.S. market share barely topped 10% before the pandemic. According to UK-based consultancy Midas Aviation, that could grow to 20% this year alone.
Look, the budget airlines help democratize travel. They bring low-fare air transportation both to small towns and large cities. In some cases, they may provide some of the only air transportation some communities see.
Las Vegas-based Allegiant has recalled all of its furloughed pilots and has plans for growth. Spirit and Frontier have posted pilot job ads and are taking in Airbus A320neo jets that could help open longer routes. That's including coast-to-coast flying, traditionally controlled by legacy carriers. In contrast, American Airlines has gone from hiring 100 pilots a month before the pandemic to threatening 1,800 furloughs without fresh government assistance on labor costs. Ultra-low-cost carriers, or ULCCs, offer a bare-bones experience at rock-bottom fares and charge heavily for extras like bags.
The budget airlines charge low fares because they've stripped away costs, they pack a lot of seats on their planes, and they make the money back by charging you for everything from a bottle of water on the plane to bringing a bag or checking a bag, and everything in between.
ULCCs are common in the European market, but have struggled to compete in the United States. There are tier below carriers like Southwest Airlines, which pioneered the low-cost concept in the 1970s, but since then has grown to become the leading domestic airline. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
That's the latest business updates for today, but you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.